Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Paraben-free, peace with care. For beard mousse, armpit mousse, or jock mousse, visit shalomcare4u2u.com. Shalom Care.
Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this platform by individuals, callers, or invited guests are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with the brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Shalom, shalom. You're now tuning in to Debate Talk for You Radio. I am Gabar Alaha, and we're back with another hot seat. We got Garfield Reid going to be getting in the seat for today. Before we begin, I first and foremost want to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh and the authority of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who is commonly called Jesus Christ, and to everyone tuning in now, whether it's live or on the playback. May Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. Once again, special shout out to Sal Showtime for setting this up and linking me and his brother together so that way we can get this underway. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring them on. Before I do, so that you guys know, please keep it clean in the chat. Please keep it clean. If you guys come on and ask questions, please keep it clean. Debate Talk for You does not condone any foul language, any disrespect, or any name calling. Those things will have you removed and blocked from the platform immediately. So let's give much respect to Sal Showtime and his platform. Let's maintain the integrity that has been here for the many years that this platform has been around. All right. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring him on. Brother Garfield, let's get him in the building. You're live on the air. Say what's up to the people.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. It's Brother Garfield.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, man? So before we get things started, you got anything that you want to promote concerning your book or any websites or anything?
Yeah, pretty much. If anyone would like to purchase the book, you could get it on Amazon or on my website, brothergarfielduniversity.com. You could check me out on Facebook, Garfield Reid. On Instagram, I'm Brother Garfield Reid. And that's on YouTube, it's Dagger Squad University. So I'm here, man.
All right. We see people is already in the chat. So once again, the link is already posted at the top of the chat for those of you on YouTube, and for those of you on Facebook, let me actually go ahead and drop it in. For those of you that are on Facebook, go ahead and drop it in real quick. All right. So let me go ahead and put the link in the chat one more time. So the link is in the chat as well as on YouTube and Facebook, and it's posted at the top of the YouTube chat. So once again, if you guys come on, if you guys want to ask questions, please keep it clean. Debate Talk for You, once again, does not condone any foul language, any disrespect, or any name calling. Those things will have you removed from the platform immediately. All right. So before we get this hot seat started, so for those of you who aren't familiar with how hot seats are ran here on Debate Talk for You, anytime we have a guest that comes on, they have to go for 60 minutes in the hot seat for 60 minutes. And then after that, if they decide to go longer, they can choose to do so. At any moment, the person who is engaging our guest, at any moment that guest wants to move on to the next person that wants to ask questions, they have the power to do so. Okay. Depending on how many people we get on in the backstage, we may have to run clock. Right now, we're not running the clock at this present moment, but if we start to reach capacity backstage, we'll have to start timing people so that way, we can kind of get through everybody and allow everyone to come on and ask their questions. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. So once again, the link is in the chat. You guys can come in at any time and ask your questions. Okay, at any time to come in and ask your questions. All right. So let me go ahead and kick it off. So Brother Garfield, are you ready?
Yes, sir. I'm ready, man. Ready, ready, ready,
All right.
ready.
All right. So it's 5:11. So we'll check back in at 6:11 and well it's 6:11. Well, I'm on Pacific Standard Time. So we'll check back in at 11 minutes after the hour. We'll do it like that. And then we'll just go from there, okay? So now so let me just jump right to it. Why the book? Why the book?
Um, I've been dealing with this topic and subjects within the Bible for like 30 years. I was a Christian at one point, and for the last 9 years, I've been debating so-called Black Hebrew Israelites, and I just thought it was time to put pen to paper. You know, a lot of people talk, and they could come on YouTube, they could come in chats, they could run their mouth, but they just can't deal with scholarship. So I my pen put the pen down to the paper and decided to put a book together. Actually, a wonderful book with a lot of sources in it. Everything is sourced, and it actually deals with a lot of the claims a lot of Hebrews make. And the question actually that should be asked is, why wouldn't anybody want to buy this book or read this book? Because the book is well sourced. And I think this community on a whole, the Black community, has never had any scholar who has written a book regarding the internal things of the Bible and the archaeology and what's being said in public or what's being said in the academia from a scholarly level. So I decided to actually put what academia is saying on in the book, and that's pretty much what it is. Mhm.
Okay. So now I haven't had a chance to read the book. I thought you was gonna try to send me a copy, but so I can kind of ask for more in-depth questions. So I haven't had a chance to check out the book yet in full detail. But I kind of scoured through YouTube a little bit to see what people had to say about it. And actually Tazariot, he says that there's a source in there that he spoke to that he posted to his channel where he's saying that I guess one of the sources that's talking about the story concerning Esau and Jacob, that source has actually been debunked. So can you speak to that?
Um, you see, you could tell that the Hebrew Israelites are not scholars, because if you ever did a PhD program or a master's program in school, your job is to debunk and refute any scholar out there. And what happened is every scholar has been refuted. If you haven't been refuted, you're not a scholar. So when someone says that, I'm like, oh, it's been debunked. And if you ask them if they've actually read the source and read what the source is saying, they haven't. They've only read some article, somebody probably reviewed a book or whatever. So every single scholar in the world has been debunked or refuted. If they haven't, they're not a scholar. So that argument is not really an argument from a scholarly point of view. And I actually had a sit down with Captain Tazarek yesterday on Sarnetta. It's probably one of the best sit downs I've ever had since I've been in this community. The brother is very sharp. He didn't read the whole book, but he read some parts and we went over it together. His main contention is that, why don't we say the Bible that they copied from the Bible? I never say in this book anybody copied from anybody. So that's already telling me who's read the book and who's understands the book. What I did was, my brother, is invent something called stories have no borders. So Brother Gabar say, like, people say like the story of Moses has copies Babylonian Sargon story, excuse me, with Moses being floated in the water and his mother sent him out in the basket. They say, okay, Moses copied that story. That's what a lot of people say. What I say is stories have no borders. The people who are writing the story may have been familiar with the culture that they live in. For example, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. They'd never celebrated Halloween or Thanksgiving in Jamaica. Now, I, as a Jamaican, move here. I have family members who go trick or treating. I don't do that stuff. But now they are in this culture. They are celebrating Halloween and Thanksgiving. So if they were to write a story, they'd be like, oh, on the 31st of October every year, we would celebrate Halloween. And on the last Thursday in the fourth Thursday in November, we celebrate Thanksgiving dinner with the entire family. That now has become a part of the culture of a Jamaican who is no longer Jamaican but lives in a different territory. The Israelites, or I should say the Hebrews, lived in Canaan. So when they lived in Canaan, what happened is when they lived in Canaan, Alexander the Great took them to Alexandria, Egypt, where it's called Egypt, and he imprisoned them. This is actually recorded. So he imprisoned them, and during that time, when the Ptolemies took over after Alexander died, they continued to live in Egypt under a Hellenistic rule. During that time period, they may have adapted storylines and different cultural elements in rewriting the story. And I think a lot of Bible believers don't realize that this version of the Bible that we have is actually a rewriting and a redacting by the writers at that time period. So when you see the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that stuff, you don't have the original Bible. No one does. So you have what's called a rewriting because scrolls couldn't survive. So each time a priesthood or someone would rewrite a story, it would be later on, and then they would add their own little remix to the story. So if you lived under a Hellenistic culture and you knew stories like the Jacob and Esau, the story of wrestling and taught them wrestling in the womb, or Moses, the Sargon story, maybe you added those storylines or that story to spice up your story. So it's nothing bad. You're just trying to tell a story about your culture in your worldview at the time. So people see the Bible as the word of God, exact words. Nah, that's not the reality of it or how scholarship looks at it.
All right. So once again, we got Brother Garfield in the hot seat. Y'all see the link is posted at the top of the chat here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook. It is in the comment section, so you guys can come on in and come ask your questions. I see we already got Orthodox more backstage. Going to be bringing them on in just a moment. So me as a host, I try to stay neutral. Though I am a Hebrew myself, but whenever I'm hosting, I try to stay neutral. So my line of questioning is more so on a neutral stance, and also too, because I really don't know too much about you. Actually, I mean, I just kind of hear your name, in the wind and stuff. But now, whenever I was scurrying through some more of the videos, I see that also you tend to have some contentions with even some brothers in the Kemet community. So can you speak to that also?
I really don't have any contention with anybody in the Kemet community. I don't have any contention with anybody in any community, to be in fact. What happened is I just love scholarship and I like truth. So if someone can point out to me where, say for example, where I'm wrong, I don't get offended. We got Orthodox Moore coming on. He's a very professional dude. He'll ask a question, he might agree or disagree. It won't be personal. I think what happened is the human being don't like to be wrong. They like to be right. And I think a lot of people who hold on to stuff like Kemet, I believe personally, or I should say, I accept Jesus in the biblical text as a historical person. The majority of the folks in the Kemet community don't. So that's a contention they have with me. I don't have a contention with them. So we go back and forth on that issue. A lot of people like to say, Kemet, the Bible copied Kemet. I don't say that. So, there's a lot of contention in that sense, scholarly contention, but not contention as in personal.
Okay. So, now, since the book has come out,
Mhm.
so now a lot of people are saying they're calling it pseudo scholarship. That's what they're calling it. They're calling it pseudo scholarship. I mean, even a couple people in the chat have called it pseudo scholarship. So, why do you think they're calling it pseudo scholarship?
Because they didn't read the book and they think it's not scholarship in the book. Once they read the book, though, Captain Tazariak, I'm gonna give him an example. He's a strong believer in the word of the Bible. 100%. He said yesterday to me, he said, Garfield, he congratulates me. And he also says that he urges everybody to purchase the book because there's things that he never knew that he now went back and researched, and he now knows. I think people see the beginning of the misconceptions and misinformation and they run scared. I think if anyone in there really wants to know the Bible and what archaeology said, what the scholars are saying, get the book and make a decision on your own. Don't go by what you hear or what somebody who has contentions with Garfield says. Read it for yourself. And I think if you read this book, and I'm not even tooting my own horn, because remember, I'm a child of Debate Talk for You. Debate Talk for You is where I started off at years ago. And I'm a child of before I was on Sunnet or anywhere, I was at Debate Talk for You, wrapping it up with all these brothers, brother Zadok, or brother Josh, brother whoever else. We were just going back and forth. But the truth of the matter is, if you read this book, you will learn more than you have learned in your lifetime of the Bible. And I'm not even saying it because it's my book. It's because I know how the believers think. We look at different verses and try to strengthen our belief in what we're reading instead of actually reading the Bible completely and trying to understand who wrote it, why, who, what, where, why, and how. Those are the questions I don't see believers answering at all. So I think anyone who says anything about the book never read the book, because everybody who I know who's read the book has had very wonderful things to say about the book, who have actually read the book. So I don't know about that. All right.
Okay. And you know what? I'm glad that you said that you were a child of Debate Talk You, because a lot of these guys, they not coming back and saying where they got their start at. So I actually commend you for saying that, brother. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, and I did see that you've actually been on the hot seat before, here on Debate Talk You. I see all that you debated G-Con and and as well as having dialogues with like some other people. So make sure y'all go and check out the catalog here on YouTube. You guys can go back and hear some of the previous work that the brother has done here on Debate Talk for You. Okay. So now okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, because you said that you believe in the Jesus Christ of the New Testament, you said?
Yeah, I think he's a real historical person. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now with that being said, what is your religious viewpoint or belief, if you have one?
Well, I always tell people I believe my mom and dad created a beautiful human being. That's the only thing I believe in. And I do think that everyone who has a belief that's their own personal belief and their own connection to whatever they hold on to. And that's their business. I don't hold to any religious deity that man has created. I think every deity was created by man because they have a name. Once they have a name, that means a man made it up. But we as human beings are born with the urge to have belief. So having a belief is not a bad thing. But when you want everybody else to believe what you believe, that's more like cultish behavior. So having a belief is not a problem. I personally don't have a belief in a set deity. I'm what you'd call an agnostic, because for one, if I would sacrifice, my name is Garfield, if I would sacrifice cats in an altar in my house and all of a sudden I get all the blessings in the world, does it mean that everybody should follow what I follow? No, that's what worked for me. So everybody has to find their own connection to whatever deity they feel and do what they do. But what we find in everywhere is that people have now said the Bible is the word of God and it's the ultimate authority. But who decided that? Who said the Quran for the Muslims is an ultimate authority, or the New Testament, or the Hindu book, or the Persian book? Who did that? Who decided that? It was all man and rulership and who's in charge. So I think every human being, especially the children of the descendants of the kidnapped victims on the transatlantic slave trade, should try their best to identify with something, because I think all these groups that are formed, whether it's an Israelite group or a Moorish group or a Muslim group or any type of groups that's formed here in the Western world, is because we have what's called an identity crisis. Even the brothers and sisters that follow Kemet, the ones that follow we have an identity crisis because we never asked to be in this part of the world. We were kidnapped and taken over here, and we're a part of a sugar money system, and it's called a transatlantic slave trade. We never asked to be here, grew up here, so we didn't know who our God was. We lost our names, our language, our folkways, our mores, our norms, our traditions, our customs. We lost the gods we believed in, everything. So at this point, we're really trying to find out who we are. So the closest thing to us was the Bible. So instead of trying to search who we are, we decided to follow what the slave traders believed in and what they forced on us. And then now, in the last 50 to 150 years, we've developed our own system. Some of us call ourselves Israelites. Some of us call ourselves Muslims. We follow Kemet. We do all the things, and that's pretty much it, you know. But as far as belief, I don't hold to any specific belief, and if I did, I wouldn't share it.
All right, all right. Well, I really, like I said, I didn't get a chance to read the book, so I can't go in depth and ask too many questions. And you know, and again, as a host, I have to stay neutral. So I'm gonna go ahead and yield there. So once again, everyone, the link is in the chat if you want to come on and ask questions. The link is in the chat. Once again, this is the hot seat with Brother Garfield. We just ask that you keep it clean, no foul language, no disrespect, no name calling. Let's maintain the integrity. All right, so let me go ahead and get the first person that we got backstage. We got Orthodox Moore. Orthodox Moore, you're live on the air, and say what's up to the people.
Peace and blessings to the panel. Peace and blessings to the chat. Much gratitude to Sal Showtime for setting up this conversation. Gratitude for Gabar for hosting, and much gratitude for Garfield for coming through.
Hey,
first,
peace and love, bro.
Always. I saw you in the UK on Man Them like a Shaka Ra's channel. Big up man like Shaka Ra. Everyone should go check out that interview on God Kush TV, man. God Kush TV.
All right. Morris, yes. So you can go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and drop myself out. Nobody's behind you right now, man. So you can go ahead and rock out. If somebody comes behind you, I'll go ahead and prompt you.
Yeah, I only got a few questions. I got another show to go jump on. But this will be real cool and respectful and whatnot. No worries.
All right, no problem.
But yeah, so first and foremost, I want to give you some sincere congratulations because a lot of people were in doubt about your book even coming out. So the fact that it even came out is a success in and of itself. And as someone who also descends from the African descent community in the Americas, I want to congratulate you on that success in and of itself.
Hey, thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Secondarily, as someone who comes from an Abrahamic tradition and whatnot, I want to show appreciation for the fact that you did a lot to. I have your book. A lot of people know I have your book, and so I haven't finished reading it, but I've read a good portion of it. And I appreciate the fact that it seems to me like you're doing three things. Like one, you're trying to give an honest historical analysis of the Bible. You're trying to give your own personal critique at the same time. And then you're also trying to give a diversity of views as to what the scholars say on the historical aspect of the Bible. Do I have that correct?
Wow. I have to clip that part of the video because it's amazing that you're the third person that I know who holds to the Abrahamic faith that read my book. And between you and Tazara, everybody will see the interview tomorrow that me and him did together, and they're gonna be pretty much saying the same thing you're saying. And I'm glad you're being honest. But anyway, continue, my brother. Appreciate that, by the way.
Yeah, and I think people should understand the concept of what you were saying about scholastic critique and whatnot, that like scholars get rebutted, etc., whatnot. So there's a way to have a critique conversation without having to get into ad hominem, etc. We can just address the arguments and all them kind of things there. And so I also want to point out that I think that you ask honest critiques that deserve to have that kind of conversation and whatnot. So for instance, like the chapter that I focus on most heavy is the Exodus chapter. No Exodus, no religion and whatnot. People know that I debate the Exodus, that I have my own theory on it, that I'm working on a paper and a book, etc. I have a timeline in the Pharaoh, all that kind of stuff. Right. But what I appreciated is that, like, so, for instance, your work on Judah and Ephraim and Manasseh, you're trying to call in the timeline into the question, etc. Does the chronology, do the genealogies add up with the chronology, etc. whatnot? That's a legitimate and fair question, right? So no one should be up in arms because they're hearing you ask questions about their holy book. And if they are, then they're being too emotional about it, and they probably need to put the book down for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Get their mind right and come back and read it again.
Right.
Because no one should be offended at the fact that my brother's asking honest and sincere critiques, because anyone can pick up this book or can pick up the Bible and come up with the same question Garfield just asked in terms of like, does the genealogy add up with the chronology, which is a legitimate question.
Right.
And so it deserves critique backwards and whatnot, right? Or being able to give a scholarly response back to where we can just go back and forth over the arguments and whatnot. I also want to show appreciation of the fact, like when I say diversity of opinions, like so when talking about like the Exodus timelines, he did his best to show the multitude of different timelines that scholars take. He didn't necessarily have to do that. He could have wrote a book that was completely trying to debunk the Exodus and completely trying to straw man the thing and trying to like, oh, it never happened this way, it never happened. He gave critiques as to why people have certain questions over certain things.
Did you see my interview on Soko Films?
Part of it, I didn't finish it.
All right. At the end part, right? The brother Darren, he had a conversation on my channel in Dagger Squad University, right? And
that's the Ethiopian brother.
I don't know if he's Ethiopian.
He's Christian. I know that he's from Soko Films. That Darren, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, so Darren was interviewing me. I mean, he's not on Soko Films, but he knows them pretty well. But
there's another channel that he goes on with the
right. Hebrews 9 verse 27.
Right,
I think
right.
Right. All right. So we know who we're talking about. So he had asked. I didn't even know he was gonna ask me that, bro. To be honest, and we in UK, the dude pulled his phone out, so that means it's like he planned.
Right.
So he ambushed me, and I'm there, and I'm trying to be respectful because Soko is a Christian channel,
right?
I'm trying to be nice and good, and so he asked me. He said, "Garfield, you said this about the Exodus and so forth," and he brought up some different things. So then I pulled out the whole Ephraim thing. Because a lot of people, and this is what I noticed when I wrote this thing about with Sarah Jaffe's work. Sarah Jaffe, first of all, I use her works because she's the #1 scholar. And if people understand scholarship on a whole, you don't find people call a woman a #1 scholar in a field. That's how sexist academia is at times. And what happened is,
and there's a lot of female archaeologists and historians that a lot of people know about for that exact reason. But go ahead, my fault. Didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
Right. And but it's so sexist for they normally don't give somebody that type of prop. But Sarah Jaffe, for anybody, her name is Sara, Sarah Jaffe, Japhet. That's her name that she uses. And she's like the best when it comes to Chronicles. Very thorough book. 2 books she has out. I think both of them like 1,000 pages. So I'm reading the book and I'm seeing all this stuff. But she has another book and she points out the same issues again. I'm like, why does she keep saying the Exodus in Chronicles is not the same Exodus in the book of Exodus? And I'm like, that's kind of strange. So I said, let me research this. So then I had to go back and read it in the Bible Orthodox more because I've never really read Chronicles. I don't think anybody really takes Chronicles. But the issue with Chronicles for a lot of people, because we consider it a late book in the 4th century BC, the issue now is, for example, with the example with Judah, not to skip from Ephraim, but to go to Judah, Genesis 38 stories, a continuation is in 1 Chronicles 4. So you see the story being continued. And when you see the story being continued, you say to yourself, wow, so this is an older tradition that they had that's being continued in Chronicles. So why is Chronicles trying to imply to us as readers that the Exodus there's an impossibility with the Exodus? So when I look at Ephraim now, I say, okay, Ephraim came down to, the children came down to Gath. How they could have gone down if they were in Egypt, because Ephraim was born in Egypt from his father Joseph and the lady that he had, they had children with or whatever. But it's funny that Ephraim kids went down to steal cows, which is a whole nother argument if we want to have an argument. Why are Israelite kids going down to steal cows? But they went down to steal cows according to the Bible. I haven't read the Hebrew version to understand all the intricacies and all that stuff. But they go down to steal cows, and then I put a map in the book to show them going down. So if they're going down, they could not have been in Egypt, because if they were in Egypt, they would be going up. So that was a problem for me. The second problem is when they got killed, Ephraim came down also. So where's Ephraim at this point? He couldn't have been in Egypt. So that's a timeline problem now. Timeline and geographical problem. Then when you go down to he goes down and mourns Orthodox more. It says he and his brothers, plural, because Ephraim only had one brother, which was Manasseh, according to the biblical. So now we have a whole nother tradition now saying that he had brothers. So I'm saying, okay, let's dig a little further.
Mm-hmm.
Go a little further now. He has a child, because the child now, because he lost his two children, he had to have another child to carry on his legacy. So he carry on his legacy now with the child, and that child has another child while they're living in the land of Canaan. So they're not in no Egypt no more. They're in Canaan having children, and the generation is going on and on and on. And guess what now? He has a daughter who's built 3 cities, the 3 major cities that's in the geographic location of the real historical Ephraim area. That's what they built up. So how could she build and carry on a tradition in Canaan without them being a part of the Egypt? And then that tradition went all the way to Joseph, the son of Nun. I mean, Joshua, the son of Nun, who is the guy who is the. So that now had me thinking there's something wrong here. But when you read the story, the book of Chronicles is very technical, because remember, it copies stories from other books. So every time you copy the story, they left out the Exodus. Exodus is mentioned in Chronicles, but it's not the same Exodus. And that's the issue. It's mentioned off, like, there was an Exodus, but it has nothing to do with the tribes, because, say, for example, Ephraim is born. Ephraim carries on all the way down to the tradition of the time of David and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, they show a continuation without the Exodus or the conquest of Canaan. And I think that's what I'm trying to show people, that there's an alternative to the biblical story. What did you think about that?
I think there is. Well, this is a hot seat, so I'm not supposed to answer questions. I'm supposed to ask questions.
Right. Oh, okay, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, no worries. But so I definitely want to dialogue with you about that. And my last question was gonna be inviting you to come on and dialogue about those kind of things, so I can answer questions as well.
Okay, all right.
Because I think you answered. You asked, like I said, a lot of legitimate questions that need to get answered. One thing I really enjoy about what you did with that, though, is so you point to other Exodus narratives in the Bible. And I don't think, and this is why I think what's important. A lot of people don't know that there's multiple Exodus narratives in the Bible, and multiple prophets that talk about the Exodus from different perspectives and whatnot. So, for instance, in my timeline and how I work with things, a lot of people don't think that there's a name for the Pharaoh in the Bible. However, in my rendition of things, like in Isaiah 30, there's a potential epithet of not only the Pharaoh but his predecessor. I also work with the concept of there being like an Assyrian Pharaoh concept based on what the Bible says. It was an Assyrian who oppressed you. So I also like falsify that based upon Assyrian names and etc. and whatnot. However, long story short is people should recognize that it's legitimate for Garfield to ask that question based upon the fact that the Bible does give multiple different accounts of the Exodus going back through it. Like, a lot of people think it's just the Exodus, like in Exodus, right? But don't recognize you can go further in the Bible and find other accounts thereof. So I think that's very legitimate. But real quick, because I gotta go jump off in a second. I want to touch on something from page 69 in your book, because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So on page 68 and 69, you give 4 different breakdowns of the different theories of the Exodus. And so on page 69, you talk about the third theory kind of being tied to the Theri eruption, etc. And so I was trying to make sure I understand what you're saying. Like, so when I read the book, I feel like you're saying, like, at one point in time, people were dating it back to 1450, but a modern concept should be looking at like 1650, 1600. Am I reading that correct, or do I have it wrong?
Let me read it. So you had Egyptologist Hans Godek in 1981 and updated that booklet in 2004 based on early radiocarbon dating of organic material in the Theron ash. They set the eruption and the Exodus around the traditional date of 1450 BCE. Due to later radiocarbon date testing, as well as tree ring and ice core dates, which point to Theron's eruption about 1650 to 1600 BC, this dating has sparked a lot of debate. Archaeologist Hendrik Bruns and published a paper in Nature, linking to the new lower Thera dating date to the Exodus. So pretty much, because of the dating of the eruption itself, it actually pushed it to an earlier time period, and then it basically changed the whole dating. So because the standard dating for the Exodus for a lot of people is and people might not notice, and you'll see that right there with the theories that the dates fluctuated, even when you look at David Roll and all those different things.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that you don't have a set date for the Exodus. It could be from 2200. A lot of people don't know that. People said the Exodus was 2200 BC, and some people go as low as even 1250 BC.
Yeah, I gotta admit that was the first time I actually saw it reading the book. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know people looked at that timeline right. I was like, wow.
Yeah, so
I actually appreciate that because you gave me something to go study.
Yeah, so the controversy here is they had an early date, because this is basically summarizing what they actually did with the point of views and the theories of the Exodus. So the dating didn't match up basically with where they were originally. So it kind of like set up a lot of debates because they were saying it's 1450. So when they dated the eruptions and all that stuff, they went back to like 1650.
So putting the scholars aside, I'm asking Garfield just for his opinion on this one. What's your opinion on the date range of the Thera eruption? What do you understand the date range to be?
I think between around 1600, around that time period.
For the full, I'm asking the range. Like how do you understand like the range?
Around 16 to 1500 BC, around that time period.
Okay. So 16 to 1500 BC. Okay. So in your opinion, what's your understanding of the Egyptian account of the Thera eruption, if there is one?
I'm not well rehearsed on it. I've heard about it, but I've never studied it, so I can't comment on it because I don't have a full scope of what it is and everything. But
okay. Yeah. So for instance, Anonymous with his timeline, he takes the 1450 timeline roughly, and the Pharaoh thereof. And so he basically, we both take the opinion that the Thera eruption is the backdrop for the Exodus in and of itself. We believe that the Bible gives two timelines, one being roughly 1450, the other one being roughly 1540. And so we have different dating methods or different reasons why we go with different timelines as well. He uses the Ipwar papyrus to go along with his date range, and I also use the Tempest stele or the Akmos stele from circa 1550.
Yeah, the Tempest stele, I'm very familiar with that. But I think with the Exodus, I don't think I really don't think the Exodus has anything to do with any of those. I think the Exodus tradition has to do with more of where they're going as far as cultural memory. I really like
and no issue with that. Like I completely understand. Like agree to disagree on that, right?
Another thing is, remember, whenever if say for example I'm a Bible believer, I can't say is either I believe the book as it is or I don't believe the book as it is. And I think there's a lot of traditional folks that watch debate talk to you. They might not like your perspective because it's more of a universal perspective that looks at everything. While you have some people that's a straightforward, hey, I believe the book is the word of God, everything is it. So if that's the case, do you believe the Ephraim story, the Judah story? As a matter of fact, in all the Chronicles, all 12 tribes, according to it, they didn't participate in no Exodus. If you really want to think about it, if you read Sarah Japheth's book, she goes through every single tribe and shows their tradition. Benjamin, he goes into Egypt in one tradition. He has children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren in one tradition. And then in the Greek tradition, or some people call it the Septuagint. You have the Greek tradition and you have the regular tradition. It's actually in the book. In that same chapter, you'll see I talk about the tribe of Benjamin and tribe of Judah, tribe of Ephraim, tribe of Manasseh. And I think people need to understand that different writings at different time periods play a role. But if you believe the whole book, it's hard to accept the entire book on a whole from a realistic level. If you believe the book, just believe the book. Leave it as it is. But if you're gonna I say add on to the book and use history and archaeology, you're playing into a game now where your fundamentalists are going to feel that you're corrupting the book.
So trying to leave the book aside real quick, because people might get a bit emotional hearing about like someone trying to challenge an Exodus narrative, etc. Like, so this is why I'm trying to bring it to like why you might be trying to challenge it historically, right? and trying to get people used to understanding those kind of arguments. So that's why I was saying like so Anonymous uses the Ipuwer Papyrus for his 1450 timeline. I use the Tempest Daily for my 1540. So you were saying that you believe the date goes back to 1600 to 1500, right? And so I was wondering, if because I didn't see it in the book, I wasn't quite sure if you had it and I missed it. If you were citing like some kind of Kemetic scholarship that goes, or something that cites a story from Kemet that would corroborate an eruption back in 1600 or around that time frame.
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right, no worries. Last question on the eruption concept. Are you familiar with what a limnic eruption is?
No.
Okay, so we'll get into that on a dialogue, or whatever, because I got to run. But so this is my last question, because I am pressed for time. I'm already late. Are you willing to come have a dialogue? Because again, so there's no scholar saying like, so me and Anonymous are working on papers and books, etc., right? But there's no scholar flat out saying, oh, the Exodus happened in this timeline, it's definitive or whatnot. So there's no reason to debate or get into no crazy back and forth and other type of stuff. But would you be willing to come have dialogues with us based upon our individual timelines and pharaohs, and speak about what you're willing to accept or what people should accept as evidence and should reject as evidence? Because I think a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, definitely. Dialogue is always good. Definitely.
Right. Because I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, so it's good to have your argument challenged by someone who's skeptical. Right. You might not recognize where you're stretching your facts a little too much or whatnot. So people like Garfield, even people like Sal Garfield, I've dialogued with him. You know what I'm saying? At Speaker's Corner people. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Speaker's Corner fam. You were on matter of fact, I'm gonna do a show about all your stuff that you did in Speaker's Corner, if you don't mind, in the UK, because there was a lot of good dialogue. And I'll say this, like, y'all gotta understand. Shout out to Garfield, because my man, like, he went to Speaker's Corner in the UK right after a lady just got stabbed up there, right? He didn't just go up there at any point in time. Like, he went up there when the people were getting stabbed up, and was like, oh yeah, so about that Quran. I was like, oh wow. I was like, you know what? I was like, agree to disagree. But
I know that you saw the video, right? When that same video with what you call it? With
EF Dawa or what?
The guy with the long beard, the Muslim guy, the blue one, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw the part where I said that. Would anybody here get offended if I said Abraham wasn't real?
Right. I'm like, yo, like, people just got stabbed up, and he's over like, yeah, so Abraham's not real. What's going on?
You look at the video with
oh wow.
Yep. You look at the video with me and brother Esau, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving around because there's people coming over.
Shout out to Esau, the black dialect. That's my G. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of the people you talk to over there, by the way. So
So Esau now, I'm there talking, but I'm moving from side to side, from one side to the other, because there's a lot of people coming. I'm like, I don't know what these people coming over here. They're coming to support me. They're coming to stab me. I don't know. So I'm just there. I'm just moving. People don't understand how deep it is with Speaker's Corner. It was fun though. It was fun.
Right. And the people can come from all sides. You don't even understand that, fam. Like, and there's all kind of interests and exits to Speaker's Corner and whatnot. But like, I was real happy when I saw you sitting down with Shakira on Got Kush TV. Again, go check out that interview with whatnot. I was like, he's safe, he's cool, you know what I'm saying?
that video when he plays the whole thing, that's probably one of the best interviews I ever did in my life. That the whole interview is straight fire. It was a good interview.
Shout out to Chakra. I got a lot of respect for that brother. I've been on Got to Kush TV a bunch of times as a panelist and whatnot. Had a lot of good conversations with him. He's a real cool brother.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was my last question, fam. I appreciate you for coming through. Appreciate you for your contribution to the community. I appreciate you for willing to come through and have dialogue and having critique in both directions, etc.
Yes, sir.
And what agree or disagree, I would suggest people buy this book to see what's being said in it, because you might learn something. Again, I learned something about it. Like, I didn't know about a particular timeline concerning the Exodus that people have. I learned something completely new. People can critique a little stuff like the structure of the book, etc. This is Garfield's first book, you know what I'm saying? When he's written his fourth or fifth one, if the structure's still off a little bit, critique him then, you know what I'm saying? But like, understand this is the man's first foray into this game, and he didn't pick an easy topic. He could have talked about like relationships or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Maji came through, was like, let me do a historical analysis critique of the Bible. I was like, yo, okay. So no, much respect for that. No, real talk.
Yeah,
I don't agree with everything in the book, obviously, but we can agree to disagree respectfully when I have a dialogue on what we disagree on. And y'all should and definitely check out the book. Hold on, what's the title of the chapter, right quick? Hold on, let me go to the table of contents right quick.
No Exodus, no religion.
No. That's my chapter. But there's another chapter real quick. Is Yahweh an Edomite God? When I saw the title, like that chapter right off, I was like, my G's taking like he's ready, like he's ready for like the 1-2-5 and the speaker's corner conversation. I was like, he's ready to get it in. I was like, okay, because you're about to catch a backlash on that with it.
Yeah.
But nah, and hopefully you're willing to sit down and talk about that chapter as well, because I know Elder Yara said he wanted to talk to you about that one.
All right, no doubt, man. No doubt.
All right, man. Peace to you and yours, man. Peace and love, man.
All right, peace and love.
All right, Orthodox More. Definitely appreciate you coming through and asking the brother some questions. We're gonna move right along. We got Anonymous Hebrew. You're live on the air. Say what's up to the people. Anonymous.
Peace. Y'all can hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop out, man. You can go ahead and get started. The floor is all yours.
All right, peace. Hey, shout out to the brother Gabar. You know what I'm saying? I just want to come in real quick. Shout out to Sal, man. To hear Garfield say he got his start here. I know so many brothers that got their start here. This is my home. This is my birthplace. Sorry I ain't been in the loop. I had a title that I had to go chase after and win. So all praise to the Most High on that. But shout out to Debate Talk for you being able to bring this together, get this brother on here. So what's up with you, Garfield?
Hey, peace and love, man. Why they blocking you, man? Why they blocking?
You know what it is, bro. You know. It is good. I said I want to say this. More, you know, me and More have actually spoke about your book, and I haven't had a chance to get it yet. Like I said, I was really focused on what I had to do over on SVDL. So I will be getting it, and not getting it just to critique it either. I want to get it to read it. I want to know what you got to say. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you, man. I told you this when you first said it was coming out. Like,
yes,
I applaud that effort. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a big deal. Just Black authors, period. But Black authors and doing what we do and really dealing with overcoming racism and white supremacy, dealing with various religions, dealing with the things that we deal with. I applaud you, fam. So I just want you to get that, you know, get your kudos. I applaud you. So
yeah, you know, one of the greatest things that happened is that for 3 weeks my book was #1 on Amazon in the genius section, right? And when you think about a #1 book, a new bestseller, you're talking about the entire world. And I don't think people understand or even it has even come to grips with what that means. I mean, this is my first book, and to see that the love that I've gotten from the response from the people who know me and people who don't know me, it has been very, very humbling. Trust me, it has been extremely humbling. Going to London, England, and people recognize me on the streets, people saying, stop me, they got to take a picture, calling their family, guess who's in town? You know, it's crazy over there. Just to see the love I get in the UK. And for everybody who's overseas, my book is actually getting translated into French in like a month and a half. It's going to be available in French for the people who actually speak French in Africa.
that's good money right there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's what's up, man. Like I said, congratulations. I'm not gonna be long. I wanted to touch on a couple of things because I had heard, because I knew, you know, we had the interaction with the B-Tech situation, and you know, some people had said that you had spoke on, because I want to know first off, you know, how do you feel about our interactions? You know, before the book came out, how do you feel about our interactions about the conversation on B-Tech and some of his work? How did you feel about that?
I think Manfred B-Tech's work is excellent. It's top notch. You know, I use his work in my book. I mean, you know, basically Manfred B-Tech is the person that's actually the one that they all refer to. And I mean, I remember when he was at the conference, they had a conference with over 40 different scholars, the interdisciplinary conference. And he was like the guy who all the scholars was like yearning to listen to. So when I use his work, I basically talked about the same stuff that you had talked about. And his summarized basically what he said, you know, regarding the people who lived there and who didn't live there and so forth, and the time periods and so forth. So Manfred B. Tuck's work definitely is A1, and everybody should actually check it out.
All right, that's what's up. Okay, cool. So moving along. So in the book, are you saying? Because like I said, I haven't read. Are you saying that there is no Exodus? Because I think the chapter is like something. Is the chapter actually entitled "No Exodus, No Religion"?
Yeah, no Exodus, no religion. I'm saying that as written in the Bible, it didn't happen. As
Right.
written in the Bible, it did not happen.
Okay. So like the narrative of the Bible, it didn't happen.
People like you now, anonymous Hebrew, you pray to the Most High, they're gonna hate you right now. It's just like how they're gonna hate Orthodox. You guys are unorthodox believers, you know. So, but you guys try to say, you know what? Where did the story come from? I do like the cultural memory story, and in the book, I do point out, and I didn't bring this up with Orthodox one. Surprised he didn't bring this up. The Kunjalet Arjud, that find, right? There is a story in that talks about a figure that there's a tradition of a figure. He's not like Moses, but we probably say he was Moses and it probably evolved to being a Moses. But Nadav Nahum actually wrote about the find and saying that, but he's nothing like the Moses in the Bible. You know, so if you anybody who buy the book and they see like I have a part that says, so what may have happened and led to this Exodus? It's a summary of an article based on some information by Finkelstein and Thomas Romer. And what they did was they basically gave every single example of what might have happened, where the story came from, and so forth. Like at one point, nobody thought the expulsion of the Hyksos had anything to do with the story, you know,
Right.
and it does. Right now, people are saying, you know what, this may have had a lot of story, but it goes back to the whole thing about the Canaanites, Israelites being Canaanites. That's what I accept that, because I don't think the Israelites came out of Egypt and they were special or whatever. I think there's a groups of people that came in and out of Egypt constantly, like the Shasu and all those different people. So that's what I believe, and I think the tradition was invented in Canaan while there was no Israel, and it was passed on for years. And it started in the northern kingdom, and then the people who left the northern kingdom when the Assyrian exile went to Judah and rewrote a whole different version, or you know, to the effect of it. So that's what I think. Those people
And you know, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had that conversation and a lot, like especially when we're doing that first part about whether or not they Canaanites. I don't even know how this is an argument, honestly. I mean, if you're saying they come from the land of Canaan, there's nothing wrong with calling them Canaanites. If you want to verify or clarify what tribe they come from, I mean, you know, that's something else. But if you're coming out of Canaan, you would be considered a Canaanite. You know, that's
Let, for example, let's use the song of Deborah. The song of Deborah. A lot of people don't realize the cultural Israel. Cultural Israel is something totally different than what we might see actually in the book. What I say is this: the cultural Israel would carry traditions down by singing songs or writing poems. That's why you have the song of the sea in Exodus, you have the song of Deborah, and you have all these things. But in the song of Deborah, it's very fitting because in that song of Deborah, it talks about Yahweh and where he comes from. And it also talks about which tribes were available at the time. So if you look at Judges 5, which is one of the oldest, supposedly one of the oldest writings because of the writing script that it's actually in what they call Old Biblical Hebrew. They don't call, well, I don't know if they still call it Old Biblical Hebrew, but that type of Hebrew is what's in the Song of Deborah. And in the Song of Deborah, it talks about the tribes that helped Deborah when she was trying to get into this fight or war. And then she named the tribes that participated and the tribes that didn't participate. And when you look at that tribal list, this is how you got to look at the Bible. The Bible is an evolution. So they talk about tribes in the Song of Deborah that's not tribes, like Mashir and I think Gideon. Those are not literal tribes. Those are now sons of what the tribe, like you say, the tribe of Manasseh or the tribe of Ephraim. They would be the sons of them, but they were listed as tribes originally. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So those things with the Bible, when you say Canaanites, we know in the Canaanite region they had different groups of people geographically, and those geographical people they're called tribes now, or like the tribe of God. You know, we know God is a deity mentioned in Isaiah 65:11. It's a God of luck. So there's a lot of keys to understanding the tribal derivation of 12 and all that stuff that goes on in the Bible. So it's confusing when people. So my book, I'm basically just trying to let people look at what academia is saying and what the majority is saying, the consensus is saying, and we could go from there. That's all.
All right, bet. So now you're moving into the area that I really wanted to start this question about. So the only issue I have with where you're going, I ain't gonna say the only, but one of the biggest issues that I have is when you start to conflate things that are happening in Judges or even the timeline in the book of Chronicles. And then how do you then turn around and conflate that with the Exodus timeline or the Exodus story to use it to destroy the quote unquote cultural memory, as you call it? So for instance, I think we may have had the conversation even in Chronicles when we're dealing with Ephraim and Manasseh, like these are different time periods. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to understand that, or what I'm asking, is there a possibility then that maybe you are confused on the timeline that you're looking at? Because when we get to, by the time we get to Judges, for instance, by the time we get to the book of Judges, this is a very long time. This is a very long time after the actual recordation of the Exodus. So how do you then come back and try to conflate that timeline with something that's going on during the time of the Exodus?
I don't know if I fully understand your question, but if you're saying that, say for example, you're saying when it's written down is way after the Exodus, so I shouldn't.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because those people. Well, let me explain a little more. Just because those people are clearly showing that they are in a different time period. So even if they're referencing to a tribe of Manasseh or Gideon or whatever, and I'll get to Chronicles in a second, but you were leaning on Judges, so we'll deal with Judges first. Like especially during the time period of Judges, I mean, this is clear that it has to be at a different time period than from the Exodus timeline. So how can that be used to debunk the biblical narrative of the timeline?
All right. So now let's look at it carefully here. Again, from a fundamentalist point of view, these books are written in certain time periods. Remember, Judges would be around 12th century BC, or around that time period. The Exodus, of course, would be written shortly after the Exodus. Basically, based on a lot of fundamentals. Fundamentalists believe that the Bible was written by, some of them believe Moses wrote the Pentateuch, and the Judges and stuff was written by Joshua, and so on and so forth. So if you're from a fundamentalist point of view, then there wouldn't be an argument. But if you're saying that from a historical, archaeological, or anthropological perspective, then you might have an argument saying, Garfield, that the writing, like Hebrew as a writing didn't exist until a certain time period, so it couldn't have been written at a certain time period. I know all of this. What I'm saying, I'm not conflicting any time period. I'm saying what the Bible is trying to portray is what's called chronological synchronistic writing. And they're trying to write A, B, C, and D and say, see, it matches with this, it matches with that date, it matches with that date. That's what it's trying to.
I think that's a slippery slope fallacy, though. Here's why I say that, because you're assuming that that's what they're doing.
It's trying to push off to us, though. That's what the Bible is trying to imply.
Well, that's assumption there, though.
No, I'm telling you what the biblical text is doing. If you get a fundamentalist on the phone right now, and you ask them, hey, when do you think Judges was written? They're going to tell you 12th century BC. They're going to tell you when was the Exodus written, during the time, little after Moses' time or whatever. This is what fundamentalists believe. The Bible, they take it as it is. This is why I told Anonymous, told Orthodox more a while ago. What you're doing is you're not taking the Bible as it is. You're adding on using outside sources. Not many believers are able to do that.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, let me address that point real quick so then we can move forward. Yes, I am one of those believers that feel we have to use archaeological and anthropological evidence to properly put things in its proper place, in its proper context. Give me one quick second. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, family. The book is called Misconceptions and Misinformation by the Black Hebrew Israelites. And it's a well-researched book. Check it out. Check out the information. You're hearing from people who actually read the book, like Orthodox Moore, Captain Tazariak. Listen to people who have actually read the book.
Okay, yeah, I'm back. All right, brother. Sorry about that. All right, yeah. So yeah, I definitely believe that we have to use archaeological and anthropological evidence, and so that's why I'm here now. So if we dealing, like for instance, if we're dealing with the time of Judges, or even towards the end of the book of Joshua, the way I teach people is this is getting to, that's where you can start to include the Amarna letters. Now we get into the Amarna letters because now we see, especially towards the end of Joshua, like I said, into the time period of Judges, that's where we have all of these tribes and these fiefdoms, or these vassal kingdoms that are writing to Egypt, right? And they're talking about these Abaru or these Habaru, you know, these these raiders coming in and trying to ransack cities. And so that, I mean, you know, that's my concept of how we would take, you know, just one piece of archaeology and put it into its proper context. So I guess what I'm hearing from you though is that you're not necessarily saying that there is no Exodus, but that you disagree with some fundamentalists and how they would try to either time it, what they're saying happened, or just all of the overall narrative.
Okay.
Am I correct in that? Because I don't want to assume, because I do want to have this conversation. I would like to have the debate, but I know like that gets contentious, and I don't want to have no contention with you. Like I really want to be able to have this conversation where we're able to show archaeological evidence, where we show different types of evidence, where I can show you how many of us are actually lining this thing up.
All right.
Especially,
let me ask you an honest. Well, I can't answer the question. Don't worry.
You can ask, bro. I'll let you do it. Go ahead.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm
you know, I rock with you, so I ain't afraid of no question. But
yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I think you answered earlier anyway. You did answer earlier.
Okay, so then just this final part, because Moore touched on this on the Thera eruption, and so I know, and we both agree, like this is a very widely contested, you know, situation going on.
The date for it, right?
Right. Would you agree that whatever happened at that Thera eruption devastates the Minoan civilization?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when the Minoan civilization is said to have been destroyed, time period wise?
No.
Around 1450.
Okay.
Now, so do you see why that would be so devastating to a 1600 or 1500 time period Exodus?
Look at what my book says, right?
Okay.
Listen for 1 second. A more recent idea uses the 16th century BC volcanic explosion of Thera, now known as Santorini, and what it did to the Eastern Mediterranean as evidence. The link between the Thera eruption and the Exodus event was first proposed by British mathematician John G.
Hans Boerdijk,
1962.
Okay.
Then expanded, hold on. Then expanded upon by Greek archaeologist Angelos Ganopoulos in 1964, backed up by geologist Dorothy Vitellano in 1968, and further developed by Egyptologist Hans Godecki in 1981, and updated at book length in 2004. Based on early radiocarbon dating of organic material in Theran ash, they set the eruption and the Exodus around the traditional date of 1450 BC. Due to later radiocarbon testing, as well as tree ring and ice core dates, which point to Thera's eruption about 1650 to 1600 BC. This dating has sparked a lot of debate. Archaeologists Henrik Bruins and Johannes van der Plit published a paper in Nature in 1996 linking the new lower Thera date to the Exodus. So the dating is an issue right now as far as that is concerned. But I didn't stress it. I just put it in the book as to show like a difference that people are saying.
Gotcha. Okay, bet. So yeah, all right. So I'm not gonna press you because I don't want it to turn into that. I do though, like Moore said, even if it's you and you get another scholar with you and me and Moore do it at the same time, or you had a conversation with us at different times, because he and I do have different timelines, but we have
He did say it.
But yeah, but we have sat down and really come at this. We took like a meet in the middle approach where you know, you come at from this point, I'll come at from this point, we meet in the middle, and we really have arrived at that conclusion that Santorini eruption is the linchpin. And so I would love to sit down and have that conversation with you. We obviously agree to disagree, but I'm not gonna front, man. Like, I enjoy the intellectual conversations because it causes both of us to get sharp. I also want to sit down and work out something with you where we do something weekly on genetics. You know, if I can come onto your channel, I would love to work that out. I've been very busy, so just like you. So I know I know what that's like. But if we can work that out, I would love to do it. Once again, brother, I congratulate you. Now that I completely understand where you're coming from, I really want to dig into the Chronicles thing. Because like I said, I'll kind of close out with this. My discrepancy with the whole Chronicles thing, even with the professor, what's her name, Sarah Jaffet, is the attempt to say that those things are actually talking about during the Exodus time period when we don't even see that there. We don't see the correlation to the time period of the Exodus. We're just seeing and we can't even call it a straightforward chronology, because we can actually go and see missing names and things like that. And that's how we get into cultural ideology, because Hebrews weren't so much, especially when you're dealing with this, they're not naming every single person in succession, right? And we could get into that, but you know, that, just so you know, that's really where I would want to start to engage with you at on the conversation with Chronicles, but also just how we differ in the actual narrative, because I think you would be surprised even how I view the Exodus narrative, as opposed to what people want to say, oh, Egypt was destroyed by Israel. Like, that's not what the text says, right? This is what people wanted to say. But we see a lot of different things being enacted, and we can explain how they happen due to, you know, geography, geology, all types of different things. But just, you know, future conversation, that's definitely where I want to engage with you at. I didn't want this to turn into something super combative, because I think you're brave for coming over here. I appreciate, you writing the book, and we definitely are going to mix it up eventually. Feel what I'm saying?
All right. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right, bro. Be safe, man. And congratulations once again. Shout out to you, Gabar, too. Good job.
All right. Appreciate it, my brother.
Peace.
All right.
All right. So once again, y'all, the link is in the chat, but I guess they scared to come through.
They ain't scared. Nah, they're not scared. And just to add on to what the brother said, we're talking about chronology, and what people need to realize is I did bring out something that no one normally teaches, or they probably know it and they don't teach it. What it is, family, is that the book of Chronicles shows a tradition that doesn't have the Exodus and the wandering and the conquest narrative in it. What it does is it kind of acts like the Exodus never happened. So to add on to what he said is that there is chronology that proves that I'm actually on my side, especially with Genesis 38. So for example, you're a believer in the Bible, you would believe that Genesis is written before Exodus, right? But look here, family. If you go to Genesis 38, look at this right here. Judah goes down to Canaan. Judah meets Canaanite woman Shua. Shua has a child for Judah called Shua has another child for Judah called Onan. These are not twins. Shua has a third child, Shelah. Judah meets a woman in Canaan, and she has 3 children for him. Judah picks Tamar to be wife. God kills What age is at this point? Maybe 14 to 18 years old. God kills Onan, the second son. What age is Onan at this point? Between 14 and 17. Genesis 38 verses 14. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife, which means Shelah was possibly much younger than his older brothers as far as years apart, but obviously time went by. Judah has sex with Tamar. A child is produced. Tamar had twins, Perez and Zerah. Joseph, as seen above, 22 years between Judah going down to Canaan and then going into Egypt. Perez, one of Judah's sons by Tamar, had sons named Hezron and Hamul. How many years passed that Perez could have two grown children going into Egypt with the 70/75 in Genesis 46? The difficulty is that there isn't enough time between Genesis 38 and Judah's grandson's arrival into Egypt, since only 22 years elapsed in the lifetime. And then after that, you go into First Chronicles, and you see that Hezron, one of the children, went into Mashir's, was the daughter of Mashir, who is the father of Gilead, whom he married when he was 62 years old, and she bore him Sigub, and Sigub became the father of Jair, who had 23 towns in the land of Gilead. How could they be in the land of Gilead when they're supposed to actually be in the Exodus at that time? You know, so hey, it's a lot of things with the chronology. First Chronicles 4 and Genesis 38, it's a continuation, just to show it's a continuation of the chronology and that the stories are connected. Genesis 38 is before Exodus, according to how the Bible is written. So, I mean, that's how I correlate Chronicles and all that stuff. All right? All right.
All right, y'all. So yeah, you know, I was thinking more people was gonna come on and grill you about this book, but you know, maybe they're preoccupied with some other things or something. I'm not really certain. Maybe they feel like, you know, like especially some of like the more prominent figures amongst the community, I guess maybe they feel like they've already spoke their piece with you and they're just moving on. So you know, and now we've crossed over the 1 hour mark. So if no one else is gonna come on, we'll go ahead and get some closing words. Let me go ahead and put this banner up for you one more time. So that's the website, brothergarfielduniversity.com, brothergarfielduniversity.com. Make sure you guys go check that out. You know, and definitely you know, I just want to say, yeah, we definitely do need to support Black authors more. We definitely do need to do that. You know, so yeah, just make sure, man, y'all support Black authors and information that they bring out, because the brother wrote the information. He wrote the book for it to be scrutinized. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we should do if we're trying to be scholars in our own right. So you know, definitely check it out so that way, you know, you can investigate, you know, and then try to come back with information that could potentially refute it, you know. With that, I'm gonna let Brother Garfield get some words, and then we're gonna close out. So Brother Garfield, the floor is all yours.
Yes. If you turn to the end of the book, for those who have it, I do have a chapter say, where do we go from here? And I lay out some positives about the Black Hebrew Israelites or Israelite groups that's in our community. Let me just read a paragraph of the last of page 233. A few tales spring to me when I think about Black Hebrew Israelites. During the height of the Black Power movement in the 1960s, Ben Carter, alias Ben-Ami, decides he does not want to be a part of it and chooses to leave America for Israel. In the 1970s, a young Black guy claiming to be a Black Israelite shot and murdered Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother in church. In the 1980s, we learn of a Black Hebrew Israelite organization that abuses women and children, and the leaders are caught and imprisoned. We all remember hearing in the 1990s about Black Hebrew Israelites predicting the end of the world in 2000, and we all know how that played out. As bizarre as these instances may seem, they do not represent the Black Hebrew Israelites as a whole. In general, Black Hebrew Israelites are productive, law-abiding people. I then begin to lay out some economic and some political and some other stuff that they can do as a group. And then I pointed out what we have learned from this book. But I do want to say to everybody, I don't believe any African American or anyone in this diaspora is connected to the biblical Israelites. I think the biblical Israelites are not, I don't think Jacob is a real person. I don't think Abraham is real. I don't think the patriarchs are real. You might find that offensive, but I'm speaking from an academic perspective. No evidence has been produced in history that these are real people. They are what you call eponymous ancestors. All right. And what the writers of the Bible, as far as what my research is concerned, is conveying is they're trying to develop what's called etiology, which is they're trying to create a history for themselves. So while they're writing,
Some of these stories are pulled together by creative writers, and they try to answer the questions: who wrote the book, when it was written, where it was written, why it was written, and how did we get here. So anyone who's claiming that they're bloodline Israelite, that is an impossibility, because again, the story is a storyline based off of an eponymous ancestor. If you're an Israelite of faith, I will never debate you, because you have faith, just like a Christian have faith. We all have some promise at the end of the day. We have a promise in Islam. If you believe Islam and the Quran, and you believe Muhammad is the prophet, then they say that you'll see the hereafter. In the Christianity, if you believe Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, you are accepted into the kingdom genuinely of the heart. And in Judaism, if you accept Yahweh as God and follow his laws and his commandments, you are promised to enter into the kingdom. So all three major Abrahamic faiths are based off a promise. There's no guarantee that it's true, but you have a belief. So I don't normally have arguments or debates with people that's basing things off belief. I'm just basing everything in this book off scholarship. That's all I'm dealing with. So if you want to know what scholarship is saying and what they found to agree with your book or disagree with what you book, hey, let's talk about it. All right. All right, let's talk about it. And you could purchase my book and you'll see all the up-to-date information on the scholarship as far as the biblical archaeology is concerned, and far as genetics, as far as linguistics, as far as anthropology and history. You'll find all of that in the book. So again, I want to thank Sal Showtime. I want to thank my brother Gabar for being a gracious host. And of course, Cash App for Sal is Sal Showtime, the $, and you could check out the PayPal at debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. If you want to check out Brother Garfield, I'm on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays around 12 p.m., between 12 and 2 p.m. I'm on my channel, Dagger Squad University. You could check me out. And of course, you could support a Black author and support and buy this book on either on Amazon, or you could get it from my website, brothergarfielduniversity.com. All right. Thank you, my brother. And thanks for hosting. And thank you. Peace and love.
All right, y'all. So there you have it. Brother Garfield's gotten in the hot seat, went his 60 minutes. And so we're going to go ahead and be signing off. So make sure you guys, once again, check out the book, come back to the platform. Next week, I'll actually be doing a show with another brother. We're actually going to be going into the scholarship on the Lashawan Kodash. So make sure y'all come back and check that out, because I'm pretty sure y'all going to have some questions for that. All right. So make sure y'all come back. That'll be this coming Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Once again, we will be going into the scholarship on the Lashawan Kodash. All right. So I had nothing further to say. We're going to go ahead and be signing off. Once again, shout out to Sal Showtime for allowing us to do this here. Brother Garfield, definitely appreciate you coming through. You know, like you said, you got your start here, and you have come back, you know, and have graced us with your presence and with the information that you have provided. So we definitely appreciate that. And those of y'all who got your start over here, y'all need to go ahead and come back too once in a while. You know, come on back to let Sal know that y'all ain't forgot about him. All right, you know what I'm saying? So definitely appreciate you, bro, for doing that. And again, may Yahweh keep you, watch over you always. I bid you all a farewell and shalom.
All right, peace, brother.